Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you are a current subscriber. Today I am analyzing a Katie Joy live stream video that she did 12 days ago.
I am here to talk with you guys about some updates. So today I did a podcast. So this week has been pretty busy. We've done a bunch of videos on sister wives on this channel, on YouTube, and then over on my Instagram and on TikTok, we've been
just right away. Katie Joy's baseline is to have sort of shifty eyes, which I would typically look at as a sign of deception, but that seems to be a bit of her baseline. Also, she has probably 2 or 3 cameras going. She's on different platforms live. She probably has a laptop and a phone and something else. I'm not sure, but that is the reason for her eye shifting in this particular live stream. However, what I want to note in that particular part is that she goes from I am on all these platforms to, and then she does some lip licking, which is a sign of anxiety, a sign of stress. And then she goes into talking about some of the things that she's covered on her main channel here.
I'm talking a lot about 7M and Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. While a lot of my audience on YouTube is definitely hasn't come in for that specific story, it's a story that I think that most people that follow this channel would want to follow, given the fact that we cover other cults like sister wives, polygamy, the IBLP. We've done so much with just various different fundamentalist groups. And 7M, or Shekinah Church, based out of California.
So her blink rate increases a bit in that. I'm not saying that's a sign of deception, it can be, but that in particular is a sign of her kind of flipping through all the things she wants to talk about, this list of things she's going over and considering in her mind. And so it's sort of like a flipping through tabs of things in her mind. And in this case, it's in regards to the Shekinah Church that she discusses, the 7M cult, she calls it. That's what she's referring to. You see the shifty eyes. That in this instance is not a sign of deception of any sort. There's no context saying she's trying to be deceptive, of course. And that's not necessarily what I'm looking for, but there are some signs of anxiety here.
Is a fundamentalist, Pentecostal, charismatic church that appears in the series Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. Now, if you're on my Instagram watching, you should know that this is something that y'all have been following me for. It's been an incredible process to have so many of you learn about this story and really...
You see her kind of had this uplifted expression for a moment, almost a smile, but she's referring to her following in that instance. And so the thing that I've noticed about Katie Joy's behaviors is that when she is talking about having this large following and this large audience, she expresses joy. That really brings her happiness to have eyes on her, to have that attention. And that's not always necessarily a toxic thing, but in regards to a lot of how she has used that audience, that large of an audience, it has been unfortunately a toxic thing.
And really see what we've gone through and hear from the survivors and the people that have been impacted by Robert Shin, by his mentors, by the church, by the management group, people that have been recruited, people that have left the church. It's been a very busy few weeks.
Right there, she has a group of anxious behaviors. She starts to scratch her nose, do this awkward almost hair flip. She looks down. This is showing her distaste for Robert Shin, of course, but also just how she feels about the overall situation. And it's a bit of anxiety. And I do believe that, honestly, it would bring anyone anxiety to have the lawsuits and the large viewership and everything that came with having this documentary out. But for her, unfortunately, again, it has given her a large platform for a show of toxicity and deceptive behaviors that we're probably going to see later in this live.
And I have been trying to navigate delivering normal content to you over on my channel and on YouTube, but also being able to manage everything that's happening on my end on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. So if you're here, thank you. All right. So
again, you see her really happy that she has this following and referring to, and over on this platform and this platform, she is very happy to have a large audience, and really who wouldn't be? But again, unfortunately, that has been used for deceptive behaviors and for toxic behaviors.
To help us with this specific video, can you do me a favor? And if you're on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up, hit the likes over on Instagram, hit the likes over on Facebook, share the video, leave some and get involved in the chat. I have moderators on my YouTube channel. I do not have anyone moderating comments on my Instagram. And if you're commenting over on Instagram, I'm unlikely to respond because I cannot see the comments. Okay, so today,
that right there, of course, the nose almost white at the end there was a sign of anxiety, usually associated with deception, and it's a subconscious, almost self-soothing behavior, almost to ironically divert attention from the face. So she does that there, but that comes after she says that she is unable to see the comments on her Instagram, and I had wondered why that was exactly, and then I popped over on her Instagram and saw that actually she has been, during the time that this was filmed, she was replying to some comments and could see comments. So a little bit of an odd thing to be deceptive about, and I'm not entirely sure, maybe at the exact timestamp this was filmed that possibly she could no longer see comments, but it looked like on and around that day that this was filmed, she was responding to a few things. So it was a bit odd that she would throw that in and be deceptive in that instance, but just from what I've seen, in my opinion, is she is a pathological liar. She seems to be a pathological liar. There seems to be something almost subconscious and helpless for her, but that is just what I've seen from her.
A podcast, and I did the interview, and when the podcast comes out, I'll let you guys know, and I'll promote it over on my social medias so you can see and listen to it. I don't want to announce who the podcast is with because I do not want any of these creators and podcast hosts that are doing an amazing job helping us elevate the story. I do not want them to deal with any of the harassment that we have dealt with.
So here's where Katie Joy starts to engage in a lot more anxiety behaviors. Nervous tics. She starts to wipe her nose more. Her blink rate increases. She's looking around a little more. And she keeps going from smile to stern face to serious to smile again, depending on what she's talking about. And it really shows you what she feels about the situation. But at one point in this, her mouth goes up when she's referring to this podcast. So something in this podcast or about this podcast must bring her some contempt. That's a sign of contempt when that one side of your mouth goes up. And so we see that here. There's something about this podcast. Now she states that she doesn't want to announce the podcast host because she doesn't want other people harassing the podcast host. I'm not sure that's entirely true, especially in regards to and based on everything she has done in that particular instance with all of the different nervous tics, indications of deception there. I believe that she's just not really being truthful about that particular part.
As a part of being a part of this series. I think if you followed the story, you should know that there has been allegations from everyone involved here, that everyone's getting emails and messages and people are getting contacted, and the negativity, because this series has been viewed on Netflix more than 4 million times. It's the #1 documentary on their platform right now. It's been the #1 series. It was the #1 TV show on Netflix for 10 days straight. We are top 5 still today. We were at one point, we were #1 in 25 different countries. So it's everywhere. Everyone has heard about this story. And as a part of that exposure, a lot of us involved in the series have been on the receiving end of negativity and hateful emails and some sort of coordinated effort to try to discredit not only people that...
So she really has an increased blink rate here. And you would think that based on what I said prior to this about her smiling when she's discussing a large audience, that she would be smiling in this particular instance. And I did think that that was a little odd as well, that she wasn't, that she almost seems to have a bit of disdain for what she's talking about here, but not quite. I believe the whole reason truly is that she knows that even though she says we have this audience, she isn't really all that large a part of the production of this documentary. So I believe it's really because it's not all about her. It's not all her doing. It didn't, or might not have, I'm not sure, might not have brought her the audience individually that she had expected from it, but she does seem to be less joyful about the large audience that this has reached in this particular part. And again, you see all of those indications of deception. She almost does this eye roll while she's rubbing her nose. And those are both indications of deception, and that grouped with her increased blink rate all tells me that there's something that she's not being quite honest about here.
Created the series and production, but also the individuals that shared their stories on the series. When the series came out, there had been a lot of like debate on YouTube and on all these different platforms about, is this story just about Miranda? Is it just about Miranda's family being so controlling? That was like the narrative that Robert Shin wanted you to see. Obviously, with the series coming out, you're seeing and hearing from people that were not just Miranda's parents. You are literally hearing from people that are the Rianos, Nick Riano's parents. You heard from Aubrey Fisher, Kevin. You heard from Kevin Davis, Kalia. You heard from Kylie Douglas. You heard from Melanie Lee. You heard from Priscilla Lee. You also heard from Melanie.
So you see her looking around, thinking about, okay, who was it? It could typically be an indication of deception grouped with other things, but that is just usually more of an indication of someone trying to think, okay, and what next? Especially when you're going over a list of items or people as she is now. Now, she seems to have a difficult time saying these people's names. Her mouth is especially lower jawline, is very tense as she's saying these individual names. Statement-wise, I think it's interesting that she says Robert Shin wanted people to think that this was all about Miranda. However, it isn't Robert Shin that made the documentary that discussed a lot about Miranda and the Wilkins sisters. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And it's really Katie Joy that has pushed this narrative about Miranda over and over, talked about those sisters and that family in particular more repeatedly. Robert Shin, to my knowledge, doesn't have the platform that she has. So it is interesting statement-wise that she said that.
Melanie Lee's friend that helped her leave the church. And you've heard all of these things and you've seen all of these things. And so as people have been, like today, for instance, the documentary is Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. And the series is Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. I want to make this easily accessible for everyone that comes to this video for the very first time so that it's good for playback. And when the series went live, the narrative on social media was that this is only about Miranda. And you thought there was a lot of creators on YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, trying to push a narrative that I was a liar, the Wilkins were liars, the dancers that left were liars, anyone that spoke out against Robert Shin were liars, that Robert Shin was being mischaracterized, misconstrued, and defamed. And that
now you see a little more over illustrative behaviors there. Her head moving and eyes shifting a lot more frequently. Her blink rate still increased there. She still seems to have some disdain about the situation. It's interesting to me that she's promoting this documentary that she has just told us has already a very large audience, so she wouldn't need to promote it. It seems as if she is. But also I believe it's more because she's proud that that exists and that she's tied and associated to that documentary because it's such a big deal. Now, again, you see that almost awkward hair flip there. And she tells us that this narrative has been all about Miranda. Again, that has seemed to come mainly from her and her videos. She has discussed them more frequently on Instagram. She has discussed Miranda more frequently. She has really shoved Miranda in the spotlight. Now, whether that was consciously done or not, I can't say for sure. It seems to be, but Katie Joy also knows or has stated that she knows that family. So that really could be why. And possibly she doesn't realize she has done that, but that has been mostly her. Now, she had this narrative shift there where she went from there's an audience, Robert Shin, we, to you. She says you, and that was a very odd and out of place thing to say. It's a referential shift where she says you thought, directly referring to the audience, but it's as if this video really wasn't intended for her typical audience, or at least that part definitely was not. That was just a very interesting referential shift there, and shows that there is a particular audience she wants to see this video.
That we were trying to ruin the careers of the dancers that still remained. In 2022, when everything went viral with the Wilkins live stream video, more than 6 professional dancers, or 5 professional dancers and a videographer named Kalia, left the church. There was also numerous members that left Shekinah Church as well that were behind the scenes and had been in the church for decades. In 2022, Robert Shin's daughter, Chloe, her husband, Daniel Joseph, who was his right-hand man, they left the church. Another member named Alicia.
The way that she is listing these people, again, with a more tense, stiffer lower jaw, and with some hesitation in between some particular words, that is an indication that there's more she wants to say about this, but she's holding back. She's being very particular about what she's telling us, and possibly deceptive.
Or Priscilla Lee, who was in the docuseries, left the church. And her leaving the church coincided with information getting shared in the church by Alicia, by Priscilla, and some of the other church members. And I want to just give you sort of an understanding about why the dancers, when you go to their content now, why aren't they speaking out against him? Why are they going along with this? Why are they saying that everything is safe? Why are they saying that they're not in danger? They want to be there.
That tongue-in-cheek that she just did was more of an indication that she has more to say, that she would like to say, but she's holding back, and again, being very particular with her words. She's not being very natural, and that's a bit of a deception in itself, by omission of information. Not always, but in this particular part, I do believe it is her being a bit deceptive.
I mean, they very well could feel like they want to be there, but I want to just tell you that they signed non-disclosure agreements. So Miranda, B-Dash, the dancers that remain have signed NDAs, and they cannot disparage Shekinah, they cannot disparage Robert, they cannot disparage anyone in the mentors, they can't disparage 7M. So you're never going to get them to say really anything beyond supporting their managers and their churches. And the view right now is they're going to attack the series, or they're going to attack the Wilkins, or they're going to attack the people that were in it, or they're going to come and attack me. But the series is out and it speaks for itself. And when you go out and you see
more anxious behaviors, of course, that scratching of the head there, that's not natural, that's very subconscious. It's almost self-soothing, an indication of anxiety and possibly deception. But typically I would say that's more deceptive when it's grouped with other things. Now, she is being over-illustrative. It's not necessarily her baseline, but she has 2 different baselines. Her commentary baseline and then her journalist baseline. And her journalist baseline, where she's got steeple hands, she's trying to be professional, she's just telling us things, she's sticking to facts typically, or what she believes are facts, what she's read, what she's seen. And then there's her commentary baseline behaviors, where she is a bit like this, a little less over-illustrative though. So that is interesting, coupled with the out-of-place head scratch there, and an indication that, again, she is being deceptive here.
The series and you watch it, you realize how big the story is, how many decades it's involved, and how many people are impacted by Robert Shin. So I was actually looking through some legal documents, and I was reading a declaration by Robert Shin that he filed in California. So if you watched the series, you should know that
I also want to note here that her narrative here has been that really the reason that Miranda and everyone remaining in the church has not spoke up was because they are part of a cult. They're being controlled. Now, I can't say for sure that that is or is not the case, but that is, of course, what she is trying to push here. Miranda herself has said otherwise, but Katie Joy seems to believe that Miranda and others are remaining in the church because they're being coerced to. They're being manipulated to, they're being gaslit, they're under the control of Robert Shin, and they don't really realize what's going on. Also that they've signed non-disclosure agreements and therefore cannot say anything even if they wanted to.
There was a part of the series where they served Robert Shin a lawsuit. That lawsuit has been ongoing since 2022. And the complaint that they filed against Robert includes 7 former members. So it's not just Priscilla, it's not just Kylie, it's not just Kevin, it's not just Kevin or Kalia. There's 2 other members, David and Marilyn, who are a couple that are also suing. And a lot of their claims that they have against Robert are the same. Okay. And they are seeking a lot of money and damages. And when a legal demand letter was sent to Robert back when this all started, they were seeking like 25.
So statement wise, analyzing what she's saying and not just her behaviors here, is that she is basically socializing this. She's making this a group issue. It's not about Miranda. It's not about just Priscilla, is what she's telling us. This is a problem that multiple people have with Robert Shin. So what she's truly trying to tell people, though, is that sure, Robert Shin is suing me and suing Netflix and suing others associated with this, but look what he has done to so many people. She lists a group of people. It's not just me. I'm not the problem. But that's done very subtly here.
$5 million in damages, minimum. Well, when I was looking through this declaration by Robert Shin, and I'll share this with you so you can see it, that she knew had been either reported or were happening, and then he went ahead to get in front of that and sued her. So when you think about...
Now that forehead crease I usually say is an emphatic behavior. It could be, but in this instance, she is just feeling incredulous. She's in disbelief about this particular situation. That's what we're seeing there. And also a bit of disapproval, of course. She had just discussed this document by Robert Shin, which I skipped over because it was lengthy and it didn't show her behaviors. There was nothing to analyze there aside from statements alone, so I skipped that. But you see this disdain and disapproval and disbelief in her face right now as she's discussing this, as opposed to what you saw in the beginning of this, where she was just saying, there's this documentary, I have a following, these are my social platforms, I'm over there, Robert Shin, and then she launches into this narrative, and when she discusses Robert Shin in particular, there's, of course, a large bit of disapproval there. And you really see that here, though, with there's that forehead crease, the just absolute look of disgust on her face right now.
Why he might not, the dancers might not be saying anything, it could be because if they say anything, they will be sued. What world do we live in where Robert is afforded freedom of speech and freedom of religion under the Constitution, and he's allowed to tell people and say whatever he wants? But in what world do we live in that he gets to say what he wants, he gets to tell people what he's going to do?
So of course you see more anxious behaviors, more self-grooming behaviors there. And then you see her smile, but it's not really a smile of joy, of course. It's her feeling like this is ridiculous. She thinks this entire situation is ridiculous. The fact that she's being sued and that Robert's getting away with things she basically doesn't believe that he should be getting away with.
Behavior and recognizing, hey, guess what? Maybe my behavior is the reason why these dancers left. Maybe Priscilla left because I didn't treat her well. Maybe all these other members, my daughter, my son-in-law, left because I was mistreating them. Maybe there was truth to these claims. The only thing he cared about was trying to silence all the voices and suing anyone that spoke the truth. And so now, when you look at the series being out and you see the responses by the dancers, I hope you see now and understand that there's this potential that they might be scared to say anything because they're afraid.
So you're starting to see more emphatic behavior. She's getting more passionate about what she's saying, but you would think that this would come off as more deceptive. She would have more deceptive behaviors there. The reason we're not seeing deception in this instance is because she does truly believe that Robert is, again, getting away with a lot of things he shouldn't, and that he's not very self-aware, which, my opinion, is a bit ironic.
afraid that they're going to get sued by Robert. I have never seen a pastor act in this way. I have never seen a church act in this way. I have never seen a narcissist. I mean, I've seen narcissists do ridiculous things, but this, to me, tops so much. And not to mention, he's suing people.
Okay, that neck scratch again was a almost self-soothing, anxious behavior. The eyebrow creases, however, were a sign of emphasis. Again, she does truly believe what she is telling us here, and that is that Robert is getting away with things that narcissists, and interestingly, she's not seeming to pin that title on Robert. She's not diagnosing him as a narcissist, it seems, but she brings up narcissism, and she says, of course, that they do ridiculous things, but she has never seen people act this way. And she truly believes that what she is saying here is very honest, very factual.
The King of Crump over on my Instagram said, "It's more work for the dancers, not Shin. He has the financial strength to fight them in court." Exactly. So
interestingly, and sorry for pausing so quickly, she is now bringing up her Instagram comments, even though at the beginning of this she stated that she could not see her Instagram comments. I'm not sure why that was, but that could contribute to some deceptive behaviors we see in this next part.
When you think of it in that context, they are giving almost all of their money to the church. They don't have the financial resources to sue people. They don't have lawyers and a team to fight him against claims like this. And so I've been told, and this could just be rumor, that some of these dancers are in contracts that they may not even be able to get out of. They can't even leave because of they fear like they can't leave because of the NDAs. They can't leave because of the contracts they've signed with 7M. They're afraid if they leave, they're going to get sued by Robert. They're afraid.
So the narrative now, statement-wise, what I'm seeing from her is that she believes that the reason that some people have left was that they had the resources to leave. That could be true, that could be very untrue. You don't see any deceptive behaviors in that bit. She has switched to commentary baseline behavior for her, and this is what that looks like. Some of the behaviors she has could indicate deception for other individuals, or if they were grouped with other things. But in this instance, she's not necessarily being deceptive. Behavior-wise, you don't see that because she truly believes what she is saying. I'm going to end this here. This is a long live stream. I might do a part 2. Let me know in the comment section if you would like a part 2 of this for me to continue analyzing this particular live stream, or if there is anything you would like for me to analyze. If you've watched this far, thank you for watching. Please hit the like button below. Please hit subscribe. Thank you.